right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us, Lee. Thank you. All right. Well, today is going to be an interesting day. I will try to open up my screen at some point, but those of you online, please feel free to open your mic when I start asking questions so that you can participate. You're visually not on our camera, but I want to make sure you know you're being included. I'm going to ask a lot of questions because I think there are a lot of misconceptions with the Binsr. So let's get started this morning. And for those that are not aware, you'll figure it out pretty quickly. But I did use some AI to generate some better looking slides. So hopefully you'll enjoy a little bit of a revision. Of course, I'd like to go to sleep right now because I didn't get much last night. It takes a long time to generate every single slide. Okay, I was just asked, what does BINSR stand for? It is the Buyer Inspection Notice and Seller Response. You will notice that it does not say the word addendum. It's not an addendum, it's a notice. Okay? All right, so we'll talk about that a little later, but let's start with a question. So, what is the very first thing a buyer's agent can do to help a buyer through the inspection period? Oh, and this is before the inspection even starts.
Prep them.
Prep them. What else? Any other ideas? I like that. Anybody online want to open your mics? Oh my goodness. Come on, you guys gotta be participatory today. Set expectations, right? Why? It absolutely is part of prepping them. Absolutely, right? Because think about this. If you're talking to your buyer and you're saying that a buyer gets everything they ask for, if they ask for it, the seller's going to give it to them. What have you just done to yourself?
You set unrealistic expectations.
Realistic expectations, right? If maybe you talk about most sellers are willing to participate, but they don't want to be nickel and dimed. They'll help you out on big ticket items, right? How else can you communicate that? But it's so important that from the very beginning, when you're first talking to your clients, that you're setting those expectations. How many of us, and this is a rhetorical question, have had to deal with clients that have had, as you said, unrealistic expectations, right? They want everything from every light switch to every outlet to, the one tile that has a little crack on it. They want that ripped out and replaced, right? How realistic is that on a 1980s home, right? So, think about that. So you've got to look at that. You can help your client by setting those expectations. Okay, let's see. So, is the AAR Binsr form required to be used per the purchase contract?
I would say yes.
Anybody online?
Yes.
Yes, that was a yes online.
That's my guess. Yes. No.
No. No. So
I
why?
guess you could pass.
It actually says the language from the contract says prior to expiration of the inspection period, buyer shall deliver to seller a signed notice of any items disapproved. AAR buyer's inspection notice and seller's response form is available for this purpose, right? Nothing about that, it must be used. If you have a sheet of paper that says buyer requests seller do the following, it's a notice, right? I'd put at the top notice and put all of the key components. Anytime you're drafting something that's going to be a part of your communication, I would be putting the buyer, the seller, the property address, and the date it went under contract, right? But in general, no, that form is not required. Okay, so please understand that it is there to assist you in keeping knowing the flow and making sure you're staying on top of what the contract says. But the form itself is not a part of the contract. It's a notice, right? That's why it doesn't go to the title company. It doesn't go to the lender. It's a separate agreement that's being done on the side there, right? Okay. All right. So another question. What is the buyer advised to consult to assist in buyer's due diligence and investigations? This is in the contract, folks.
Buyer advisory.
By advisory.
Yay! Well done. Well done. And it actually says buyer advised to consult. The buyer advisory. It actually says in the contract lines 223 to 224, buyer is advised to consult the Arizona Department of Real Estate. Notice that does not say AAR because the buyer advisory is a joint project between the two. But it is to assist, the buyer advisory is to assist in buyer's due diligence, inspections, and investigations. When are you now supposed to be delivering that buyer advisory to your client?
Immediately, like, with, during the presentation.
When you first meet with them. How many of you know how I like to send the buyer advisory? How many of you have heard me say this before? Okay. How do I like to send it?
Did you send it in advance
In advance?
and then have them sign it after they review it?
Okay, they don't have to review it, just so you know. The back just says they've received it. But you're right, I do like to send it beforehand. I recommend you send it in just when you get the call saying I'm interested in working with you, send that out as a link. Do you know where you can get the link? aaronline.com. In the little, look at the little search icon and just type buyer advisory and it will pop up and you can, that link at the very top, because at the very top, your HTML link, right? The bottom will have both Spanish and English versions on the screen, but you save that link. That link has not changed in, I want to say 25 years. That link is the link that is used over and over and over again. They update those forms at least 2 times a year. Why do I like to send the link? Why do I think it's so important? What does the buyer advisory have in it? What to do, but where to go, right? So the buyer advisory has all these links in it. So they have hyperlinks. By giving them that link, they get all the hyperlinks to the cities, to where to look for the sex offenders, to pool information. You literally, if you click through the pool disclosure on the buyer advisory, and by the way, this is what our designated broker wants you to do and not use the other form, because it literally takes you to the city of Phoenix, city of Peoria. You click on the city and the name, it goes directly to the pool requirements for that city. They don't have to go search city of Phoenix phoenix.gov, looking for the pool, barrier regulations for the city of Phoenix. They literally can go to El Mirage, click, and they go right down to those pool barriers. So if you send that link initially, what I like to tell people is, please save this. Save this link, because this will be invaluable during the process of purchasing home. But you know what? It is way important after you close. Do not lose this link. Because if you run into an issue with your HOA, guess what? You can click right on this and find legal information on HOAs, what the laws are. You can have access to all that. The other reason I do not like using the version from Transaction Desk or SkySlope Forms, if you have not found this out, those 13 pages are like pictures, and it becomes a huge book that is a massive size waste. I've seen people try to send, the purchase contract, the buyer advisory, this seller property disclosure. I mean, all these documents, and the Binsr is the one that, I'm sorry, the buyer advisory is the one that takes up all of the space, and they all of a sudden have a 15 or 17 megabyte file, which a lot of servers do not accept. Okay, so if you remove that from there, you're not even dealing with that. And besides, they don't have the hyperlinks necessarily that work. So please try the other way. Okay. Few other questions. How many times can a buyer submit repair requests to the seller?
Wait, what?
How many times can a buyer submit repair requests to the seller? Anybody online? Once. Ooh, people here were really quick with that one. Once. It says a single notice, right? Oops, I'm sorry. I thought I had that highlighted. So in the bottom, it says prior to expiration, buyer shall deliver to seller a signed notice. I'm going to skip all the way to the last line. It says items disapproved up above shall be provided in a single notice. One time, folks. Very important you know that. Okay, let's see what we got. All right. Here we go on this. I hope this will disappear here because let's try to get that out of the way. Okay. So I'm going to give you some recommendations on how to format your Binsr. And we're going to look at a myriad of Binsrs that have been in executed contracts, whether they were successful or not. I'm not going to go into that. But just to show you some variations of literal contracts, and if these are yours, your names are not on them, so you don't need to comment. I just want you to know that these are files that are in our files. I just pulled various things that I heard about, seen, and wanted to show you some variation. So these are my recommendations when you are a buyer's agent and the words are provide seller an opportunity to correct or address the items disapproved. That's literally from the contract. So the goal here in this first scenario with all four of these is to get the seller to make repairs, or the word above, correct, right? You want the seller to correct something that is disapproved or broken or not working, right? You're asking for a repair. My suggestion is start with a verb, right? You're asking for something to be done. That's a verb. Repair, replace, paint, install, fasten, drain. Find another verb. I don't care what the verb is, right? But start with a verb because you're making it very clear from the first word what your expectations of the seller are, okay? What the buyer's expectations and request of the seller are, not yours. Remember, you're the agent. You're trying to take buyer's requests and put them into a cohesive package so it's clear to the seller what is being asked for them. And guess what? It's clear to the buyer at the end that you know whether they did it or not, right? So second, detail the item. Specify the exact component, right, to address. Sewer line, shutoff valve, roof, TPR valve, outlet. And I go even further, the outlet on the northwest corner, right? I'll say that in the next slide there, or little tag there. Electrical panel, etc., right? What is the verb actually going to address? What is the action for, right? And then state the location. This should not be per inspection report. Why? Because oftentimes the inspection report says outlets that aren't working, right? So who are you all of a sudden asking to find the outlets that aren't working? The seller? Not seller's job. It's the buyer's job. There's an outlet they want fixed. What outlet do they want fixed? Because you know what? A bunch of inspectors test 6 outlets. Yeah, that's not the seller's job to go test all the outlets in their house. Had they wanted to do that, they could have done it before they listed their home.
So not a good idea to write per inspection report page so-and-so, just to kind of clarify.
Let's look at some of those inspection reports later, but The question is, what does the inspection report say? People do this all the time. Oh, item 5. Seller, deal with item 5.
Yeah.
What does item 5 say? Did you look at it? Because you better know exactly what it's asking for. And I'll go into that in detail in a minute. But state location, right? Be highly specific, right? Northwest corner, primary bathroom, back patio outlet. So it can be easily found during the walkthrough and easily found for the seller. The seller goes and finds, the comment is the switch to the left of the back door doesn't work. Yeah, it does. It's got a solar sensor on it. Oh, gee, funny, didn't work. Didn't know that. Here, let me give you a video, show that it actually works just fine. Click, click, on, off, in the dark, you can see that it's going on and off, right? How did you know that? I didn't know that. Inspector's not going to know that, right? So if you just say 5 light switches don't work, which light switches? Right? Sellers going around going, they all work. What are you talking about? They don't know which one the inspector was saying. So very frustrating. Your seller's all ticked off. All my light switches work. What are you talking about? No, no, no. This one doesn't work. Yes, it does. It's connected to that solar light out in the back patio. Who knew, right? Has a little solar eye, right? Probably didn't see it. The inspector didn't look for it. So another note, if you happen to be a listing agent, you know that, put a Post-it note on the dang switch. Say, this operates this light, right? Okay, number 4. Conclude by clearly referencing the original inspection report details at the end of the line. Absolutely love referencing back to the report. But don't start with, hey, seller, I want you to address item 4.3.2, and that's all you say, right? Because if you're not looking at what that inspection report says, I will tell you 9 out of 10 times there is something in that line item in the report that is not applicable. How many times do you see an inspector say, recommend a qualified plumber to go look at this?
Every time.
Right. So if you write that in your Binsr, seller, want you to go have a licensed plumber to go look at this. What should the seller's response be? Who is responsible for inspections?
Buyer's agent.
No,
I'm sorry, the buyer.
buyer. Buyer. He said buyer's agent. No, it's not the agent. It's the buyer. Right. But think about this, folks. When agents are putting that language in there and the paragraph in the inspection report says, recommend hire a licensed contractor to evaluate further, hire a licensed electrician to review this panel. And that's what you're sending on to the seller. That is not their job, right? So use it as a reference tool. Put it at the end, right? You're trying to reference, want you to see this photograph, which is going to show which window is at question. Perfect, right? It's a reference. But if you've started with a verb, detailed the item, and stated the location, you've specified exactly what the buyer's looking for. That's your job. What does the buyer want to ask for? Okay. All right, let's see where we go from here. Whoops. Thing is not working. Okay. Okay. So, contract requirements. If the seller agrees to correct items, what are they obligated to do? I'm going to read you A through F. Tell me which of these you believe the seller is obligated to do if they say yes, they're going to make repairs. A, hire a handyman. B, complete repairs in a workmanlike manner. C, deliver any paid receipts to buyer. D, seller shall correct the items. E, use a licensed contractor. F, complete work 3 days prior to close of escrow date.
Well, it depends. If it's over 1,000, can't be a handyman.
Okay.
Workmanlike manner, sure.
Okay, so give me letters, guys.
In the contract.
What?
B is in the contract.
B is in the contract. Okay, B. What else?
C and F.
C. What else?
D,
D.
F.
F.
Oh, F for sure. Yeah.
F. Okay. So I'm not hearing A, hire a handyman, or E, use a licensed contractor. Let's see how you guys did.
oh,
You are absolutely correct, right? Nowhere in this is the purchase contract, right? This is not the Binsr. This is in the purchase contract. Nowhere does it say hire a handyman, and nowhere does it say use a licensed contractor. It says complete repairs in a workmanlike manner. If you put in your Binsr, here, I'll give you this. Hold on. Go. There you go. Now do that. So if you put in your Binsr that the seller must use a licensed electrician, is that legal?
I think you're gonna say no. I just wrote that.
They can ask for it, right? But it doesn't make it mean that they have to agree to it.
Correct. That's my question.
So can you renegotiate terms of the contract in the Binsr?
No,
I don't know.
You don't know? Can you change your price in the
No.
Binsr?
No.
So if you put in the Binsr that the seller must use a licensed electrician, you are changing the contract which says the complete repairs in a workmanlike manner, which is all the contract says. Do people do it all the time? Oh, yes. You will see it in just a few minutes. I have examples, right? So those 4 items are all required if the seller agrees to make repairs. How many of you talk to your sellers about delivering the receipts to the buyer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay. If the seller makes the repairs and goes and buys a dryer vent cleaning kit, should they be giving the Home Depot receipt for the dryer vent cleaning kit?
Yes.
Yes. Deliver any paid receipts to buyer that address those repairs being made. So if there are 5 light bulbs that are burned out and you're asking them for that, technically, they should be leaving the receipt for those 5 light bulbs. Here are the new ones, unless they had them in the cabinet. Then they say, yeah, I already had them. I just replaced them. That's fine. But technically, any paid receipts should be included. Okay. And the seller can't.
The dryer.
Well, how many times do we have that one on every single inspection report? The dryer vent is dirty and needs to be cleaned. And it's like a $28 kit, by the way. Just, I don't know, just so you're aware. Seller shall correct the items. Can the seller make repairs themselves? Whether you like it or not?
sure.
Yes.
Sure. Right?
In a workmanlike.
In a workmanlike manner. That is
Right.
correct. Right. Exactly. Okay. So this is what the 3 lines actually say. If seller agrees in writing to correct items disapproved, seller shall correct the items, complete any repairs in a workmanlike manner, and deliver any paid receipts evidencing the corrections and repairs to buyer 3 days or blank days prior to close of escrow date, right? The receipts are due then as well, just so as a reminder there. Okay. So, a few years back, the buyer inspection notice and the contract were changed to state provide seller an opportunity to correct or address the items disapproved. The word address was put in there. Prior to having that word, we were writing Binsrs way wrong. We were still doing it. But today you do have the ability to ask for dollars in lieu of those repairs. That changed when they put the word address in here, okay? So think about it. If instead of making the repairs, you're asking the seller provide dollars, okay? So the goal is to get the seller to address by providing dollars in lieu of repairs. And please, I'll answer the next question in another slide. It's not on here. We're just going to focus on dollars in lieu of repairs, okay? So here's my recommendation. If you don't want the seller to make a repair on these items, you still have to state the items disapproved. This is what gets agents in trouble, right? I just have to tell them I want the money. Nah, it doesn't work that way. Okay. So my recommendation, instead of starting with a verb, is list the disapproved items clearly. Faucet leaks, unsecured deck post, roof leaks, lock inoperable, blocked sewer line. Okay. So you're clearly stating what is at fault. Okay. There's no verb, there's no action being requested here. Number two, yes, reference the report. Reference the inspection report explicitly after each item, right? Wherever the faucet leak was, and I would say faucet, bathroom faucet, I mean, explain where those things are, but list where it is in the inspection report. Page 3, item 4.6.2, okay? Provide estimates, right? If you're going to ask for money, I love when buyers do this. Yeah, I want $15,000. Okay, for what? Like, oh, there's the whole lot of list of stuff, a whole big list. That inspection report had all those things, right? Yeah, it had 5 hours of an electrician. Okay, even at $150 an hour, that's not 15,000. Like, come on.
Right.
I mean, if that's the line they're going down, you should know that in advance. And the minute that inspection report is done and they're like, oh my God, this is a lot to do. Well, why don't we find out what this really means? Let's get some contractors out there, right? Let's find this out. Okay, or you can use those Binsr requests, right? Binsr online, tell you how much this costs, right? What is wrong with those systems? And they work, don't get me wrong, but you need to know what is wrong with them. Right? What are they doing? I mean, you can do it with ChatGPT too if you want. It's an algorithm, folks, right? How good are algorithms? We know how algorithms work, right? So what is it doing? It's looking at the fact that you need a plumbing repair on a faucet. And it doesn't take into account, I mean, unless there's really a person doing it, doesn't take into account there may be 5 things that need a plumber. So there's a trip charge for each of those 5 items instead of having 1 trip charge and 5 things being fixed. Right? If you're using an algorithm, it looks at each one individually. So how high is that estimate? Right? So I mean, I like the ones where actually there is somebody looking at them and gives you back, we combined all the plumbing and all the electrical and all the this, right? But understand, if you go to ChatGPT and say, what's the cost to fix a faucet? They're going to tell you what the cost for somebody to come out and fix 1 faucet is. Now, maybe you can tell ChatGPT, what's the cost to fix this, 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 and this with a licensed plumber? Fine, you can do that. But understand that is, it's an algorithm. It's a guesstimate, right? They're not looking at the property. They don't know what else they may encounter. So it gives you a ballpark, but what is better is if contractors go out there, right? But I will tell you, what happens when you bring a roofer out and ask if they can repair the roof? What's the answer?
No.
Roof has to be replaced, entirely replaced. Can't be fixed, right? I will bet you 9 out of 10 roofers, that is the response you will get, right? So understand their job is to get work. They're not inspectors, right? That's why we have inspectors, is inspectors aren't the ones doing that work, okay? So they're easy to say, this is broken, this needs to be fixed. They're not the ones fixing it. But when you call some of these contractors, understand their goal is to get a job out of it. So all of that, you just definitely get 2 or 3. If there's a roofing issue, folks, you need 2 or 3 roofers out there. Because I have found in the past year, roofers are quick to go, you know what, I don't really want this job, but I'll throw a number at it. And if it sticks, yeah, I'll do it for that number. And you only know that if you do 2 or 3 estimates, because if all of a sudden one estimate is 26,000 and the other 2 are 17,000, you're like, the hell was the $26,000 for? Like, right? But and I just experienced that with a roofer I have used to give quotes for 10 years and has done work on my house. I called to ask for a quote on my patio roof and he told me, oh, $26,000. I'm like, what? He's like, oh yeah, I couldn't quote your patio roof. Your entire roof has to be replaced. I'm like, that was not the question, sir. The question was the patio roof. Oh yeah, I can't do that with the whole thing has to go. No, it doesn't. Thank you very much for your opinion, but no, right? So again, and I did get multiple quotes, by the way. The patio roof was $4,000. So it was not, yeah, I was not doing the roof. But the point is, get those estimates, okay? And then you have to put the detailed request. Underneath those items, you then need to specify, in lieu of repairing items, buyer requests, and yes, I'm using XYZA dollars towards buyer closing cost as evidence of addendum 1 attached. Why have I said addendum 1 is being attached?
You have to attach an addendum.
You have to attach an addendum, right? Must have an addendum. Now, do you have to write the addendum at that moment? No. Okay. What happens if addendum 1 changes? What if the seller doesn't agree to that? Then they write a new addendum 1. You don't go addendum 1, addendum 2, addendum 3. There's only one addendum 1. You can't move it around because you can't have addendum 1 saying $15,000 and addendum 2 saying addendum 1 doesn't count. Addendum 2 is $6,000 because the lender gets all those addendums. And by the way, if you try to hide addendum 1 and just send addendum 2, expect that call. You will get it. Where's addendum 1? Oh, we're not using it. I need addendum 1, but we're not using it. I need addendum 1. You can't, the lender and title have to have all the addendums. So do we. You have to have all the addendums in sequence, right? Addendum 1, addendum 2, addendum 3. Okay. So what about alternatives to concession on the Binsr form? So here's an alternative. What happens if the buyer can't get any more concessions? You were a great buyer's agent. You negotiated that 3%, got it from the get-go. Now you have no place to go. Okay. So you could get the seller to pay contractors post-closing for repairs. This is at close of escrow, right? For work that's going to be done after closing.
Is that the escrow holdback?
No. I didn't even include escrow holdbacks here,
Okay.
but no, this is the seller is to deliver irrevocable instructions to title to pay a company, right? ABC Plumbing, right? At close of escrow, or they're delivering the check written to the company to the buyer at close of escrow. Title has to write the check. Look, title's leaving at this point. So bless you. So title is writing a check per seller instructions, right? Buyer and seller can instruct title to do things. I don't know how many of you know, but seller can instruct title to pay their credit card bills. They can pay off a car. They can pay all sorts of things out of that close of escrow. They just have to send instructions to title. Added the word irrevocable. Why is that important? Because you don't want the seller to send escrow instructions and be able to go back and go, oop, changed my mind a day before closing and yank that check, right? So they have to have the instructions be, I'm agreeing to this. This is it. Okay. So it's really important that you know the company and you have to have the dollar amount. There needs to be an invoice. right? Because you don't want seller to give irrevocable instructions and then have to change them. Doesn't work that way, right? So please understand that. Now, there are some issues and risks with this, right? There are pitfalls, right? There's a flat amount limitation. If costs increase, the buyer's on their own to resolve the difference, number one. Number two, how many of you know what a roofing quote includes in it? Every single roofing quote. Does anybody know?
Like only good for 30 days.
No, I'm not worried about the days.
Okay.
There's a line on a roofing quote that says, lumber at additional charge. Once we rip the roof off, we'll see how much lumber we have to replace, and it's $100 a sheet. Okay, so flat amount, what's the flat amount? How many sheets of lumber? Remember I said the cost increase, who's paying it? Buyer. Buyer is. So you better have that conversation and either calculate in a couple of sheets of plywood, you know, and say, okay, well, let's throw in 2 or 3 sheets of plywood. It's $300, right? $200, $300, because it's about $100 a sheet right now from a roofer. So, right. And then you go ahead, and that way the buyer isn't stuck with that at the end. Okay. The other thing, it's a high trust is required in your contractor. Please don't use ABC Roofing. I have no idea who ABC Roofing is, right? But if ABC Roofing is a fly-by-night roofer and you're going to have a check written to them and they aren't there in 2 weeks, or the check is delivered to them, bye-bye, right? It's got to be somebody that is a reputable company that you can trust is going to stick around, or that other option that the check is being written to the company, not to the buyer, to the company, but delivered to the buyer. Okay, that the buyer has that check, and when the work is completed, they're able to pay that. Now, be careful, because some people want their money up front or a portion of the money a deposit. So you have to work all that out with the contractor, right? So this is an option. To your point, I actually did not go into escrow holdbacks. You can do escrow holdbacks. You must know with the lender whether it is allowed, whether they will allow it to happen. It is considered often a gift, right? It is money to the buyer. So the lender may be counting that as a credit to the buyer. So there are a lot of variables with escrow holdbacks. We have not done as many escrow holdbacks in a long time. Back in the day, we used to say, you know, credit to the buyer for carpeting, you know, to be installed after closing. All of that is lender specific, and depending on the loan, it can have a lot of variables, right? So just be aware of that. Okay, let's see. Got some more questions for you. Does the buyer have to send the seller copies of the inspection reports?
The list agent. Yes. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
it goes to the seller. Yeah, you go to the listing agent, but it's for the seller.
Right.
So yes,
Yeah.
you're saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. When is the buyer obligated to send those reports?
As possible.
Oh, look at this. I'm so excited for my agents that actually know that. It's upon receipt. How many of you have had a buyer's agent tell you the buyer doesn't have to give you anything?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, buyer doesn't have to send those reports. Actually, they do. How many of you had them received when you get the inspection report?
All the time.
And right? So I'm sorry, when you get the Binsr, right? You get the Binsr, they send the inspection report. But they got the inspection report on day 2. They've got other people, you've got all these quotes coming, and you've got, you know, contractors coming out to the property, and you're the listing agent going, what the heck's going on? Like, share with me what is happening, right? Send them the inspection report. Now, how many of you have overeager sellers that want to make repairs immediately upon getting that inspection report? Tell them stop. Wait for the Binsr, right? I have had a seller go, oh yeah, no, we're just going to take care of this. Okay, don't do that. Okay, so lines 222 to 223, buyer shall provide seller and brokers upon receipt at no cost copies of all inspection reports concerning the premises obtained by buyer. So if they get a sewer scope, do you have to provide that?
Yeah.
How about that? How many of you don't forward that on, right? All reports, all of them. Okay, let's see what I have next. What is the timeline for the inspection period?
10 days. Unless you change it.
Okay. 1, 10, 3, 3. 2, 10, 5, 5. 3, 10, 5, 3. Or number 4, 10. Oops, I did 3. It should be 3, 5. Sorry.
2.
Number 1.
2.
Number 2.
2,
Yep.
unless otherwise agreed upon.
Any other options here? Any other ideas? 10, 5, 5. I'm very impressed that you guys got that right. I can't tell you how many people tell me something else. I'll explain in a minute. So 10, I'm using what the contract actually states. Obviously, you can change this. Buyer inspection period shall be 10 days or blank days after contract acceptance. 5, if the buyer is providing the seller an opportunity to correct or address the items disapproved, seller shall respond in writing within 5 days after delivery to seller of buyer's notice of items disapproved. 5, if seller is unwilling or unable to correct or address any of the items disapproved, any of them, buyer may cancel the contract within 5 days after delivery of seller's response. So my next line, I figured more of you would have it wrong. Why do so many have the wrong answer? Does anybody know which one is normally answered wrong here? Because you got it right.
Well, they probably say 10, 5, 3.
10, 5, 3. Because in between those up above there, you will notice lines 278 to 280 says, if seller agrees in writing to correct items disapproved, seller shall correct the items, complete any repairs, and provide that to buyer 3 days prior to close of escrow date. So in their mind, they go 10, 5, 3, but the 3 is when the work has to be done. It's not the response time. Okay, so yay, kudos to you guys for doing that right. I'm so excited. All right, this is probably the biggest question I'm being asked all of a sudden because of this opportunity to correct or address. Can the buyer, oops, I got a typo there. Can the buyer amend the Binsr after they have delivered it to the seller?
If the buyer and seller agree,
That's
like
what-
on a written addendum that they're going to modify that response. Well, not addendum, but I don't know.
You only have one shot. You only do it once, so yeah.
So this is the way I try to explain it to agents that are struggling with this. If you just hold on your photo.
Okay.
If you think of it as an hourglass, and at first the buyer is on the top and their sand is not run out, right? And they deliver their Binsr to the seller, right? Once they've delivered it, the hourglass is turned over. And now it's the seller's time, and the seller's sand is dropping down for those 5 days. Buyer can't do anything. It's not their time zone.
Right.
Okay. And again, think about it this way. You have a 10-day inspection period. How many times can the buyer ask for anything? Once. So if it's a 10-day inspection period and on day 3, you send the Binsr in, the rest of the time is gone. You've turned over that hourglass. Your time is gone. Okay. They cannot make any other changes. The seller then has their time to respond. And once they flip it back, the seller can't come back and say, oh, wait, hold on a minute. Now, to your point there, yes, Audrey, you can have an agreement of the minds afterwards. But the issue when you are in the middle of it, no, you can't change who has the right to respond. And again, you have to have mutual agreement anyway, but basically your time is over. All right. So sorry, I couldn't get it to do just once. All right. So let's see. What do I have next here? Okay. I'll come back to Audrey. How do you fix that in just a minute? I've got a couple questions here. When do the repairs need to be done?
Well, I would say at least, well, probably before close of escrow, but I would say at least 3 days before close of escrow, because you have to do the walkthrough, and the repairs should be done before the walkthrough.
Hey, I've mentioned this 2 other times already. We've actually had this on here.
It's 3 days.
It's 3 days. I had this slide up there multiple times. It has to be done 3 days. So here's the question. Close of escrow is on Friday. When do the repairs need to be done?
Monday.
Thank you, Audrey.
What'd she say?
Monday.
Oh, Monday.
Okay, guys. When we count in our contract,
Yeah.
they count the days as 3 unique 24-hour periods. So Friday's close of escrow, you have to have 3 distinct days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which means the repairs have to be done on Monday. Okay? So that's how it counts. All right, let's see what we have here next. Okay. So let's go back to helping the buyer out here. The goal is to get seller to provide dollars in lieu of repairs continued. So really important, folks, if you're doing this, please check your loan limits. And what I mean by that is the amount your loan limits your buyer in receiving as concessions, right? If there are other seller concessions, or if it's just a big ticket item, right? You got a roof replacement and, 3%, it's a small deal. That alone could blow it, right? But if you've got a roof and say a sewer line, both of those could easily cost $18,000 a piece, right? That's a huge chunk of money. So, depending on the loan type and the down payment amount, right? So conventional loans, if it's under 10% being put down, they can only have 3% in concessions, period. 10% or more, then it adjusts, right? But under 10%, 3 or 5%, you're only getting 3% in concessions, okay? So if you, again, been great, you negotiated 2.5%, leaves you, I don't know, $1,000, you don't have much to work with. So think about that going into writing that Binsr. You need to know that, okay? So here's the simple concession, the way to write this. Basic ideas, right? Seller agrees to contribute XYZA dollars towards buyer's closing costs. That's what's on the addendum. Do you write in lieu of repairs? Don't even think about that on an addendum. You can't.
Get an upside down smiley face on mine.
Right? You can't. Why? Why? No, because the lender doesn't want to know. The lender does not want to know the roof needs to be replaced. And if the underwriter sees in lieu of repairs, really, I'd like to see what repairs. Please send me that inspection report. Guess what? You're about to blow your entire deal up. The underwriter calls for your inspection report. Are you able to say, we're not giving that to you? Good luck. They're the one controlling the strings. So your addendum only says seller agrees to contribute XYZ dollars towards buyer closing costs. If you already have concessions, right? Please help title out. Seller agrees to increase seller concessions by XYZA for a total of ABCD towards buyer closing costs. Why is that important?
Those are two separate numbers.
So you're changing the contract, but does title know if all this says seller agrees, seller concessions to be A, B, C, D towards closing costs? Did that replace the earlier concessions? How would title know? Make it clear, right? Have buyer and seller sign off. You're adding $5,000 towards this, right? You're adding the 5,000. So let's say, oh, this isn't going to give me that. I should have another slide. So I thought I had a slide here that said $3,000, adding the $3,000. If you had, say, originally you'd negotiated 2.5%, you can write in a, $3,000 plus 2.5%. Right? Why would you keep the 2.5% in there at this point? What happens if you haven't gotten the appraisal back yet? All of a sudden the price changes, right? That 2.5% should be adjusting if the purchase price changes. So last thing, last option, or on cash deals, yes, you can ask to reduce the purchase price. This should not be the start of your progress. This should be your last option. Now, the reason I say this is if you don't have any concessions to give, or you've run out of concessions because you've racked up all these things, it's possible the only way to negotiate this is to reduce the purchase price because of whatever it is that's so big, right? So concession adjustments, the contract says you're not to renegotiate the price using the Binsr, right? That is not the reason for the inspection period, to renegotiate the price. So that's why I'm putting this at the very end. And if your buyer is thinking going in, they're looking around going, oh yeah, I can knock off another $15,000 before this deal is over, right? Yeah, that's not a good plan. Most sellers will see right through that and they're not going to agree to it, okay? So one of the big issues I have when you change the purchase price, this does not give your buyer active funds to make the repairs at closing. You drop $10,000 off the purchase price, there's no $10,000 showing up in the buyer's pocket. You don't have that money. So if this is an issue that needs to be addressed, does the buyer have the money to address it? You as a buyer's agent need to be thinking about these things and helping the buyer walk through that, right? This is great that we can get this, but if they're ending up having to use all the interest, all the concessions to do an interest rate buy down, that's awesome. But how are you fixing your roof in the next 6 months? Did you have another 20 grand? Oh, you don't. It's probably not a good idea, right? Because your buyer's not going to be able to fix that roof. So please take that into account. Let's see, I bet I have another one. Oh, well, here you go. This is the one I was looking for. So, all right. So here's the situation. The buyer's maxed out on the concessions. The Binsr is executed and sellers agreed to provide dollars in lieu of repairs. But all of a sudden, the buyer finds out they've maxed out on their concessions and cannot receive the $3,000 credit. Agents, that was your job. You were supposed to know what concessions they could take, right? You're supposed to help them through that. But okay, we're here. Binsr's done. What do you do now? How do you fix it? Can you modify the Binsr? So I'm going to go on record as saying you're not doing a Binsr addendum. Anytime people say, I'm going to do a Binsr addendum, what do they go grab?
Purchase contract addendum?
A purchase contract addendum. What is the Binsr?
It's its own.
It's a notice.
Yeah, notice.
It's not an addendum. And if you grab the addendum and you put over on that line Binsr instead of the number 2 or 3 or whatever, You find some fancy way to put words in there when all you can put is a number. I don't know. You drop it in there. You use, your docu-signing program and slap something up there. What happens when title gets it?
You have to send it to the lender.
They see it as an addendum.
Yeah.
You use the AAR addendum form. They send it to the lender. Is that who you wanted that to go to? No, you didn't. So I'm stopping using the word addendum at all. Yes, you can create a Binsr exhibit. Yes, you can modify the Binsr after it's done, right? All parties can agree to change a contract if all parties agree. Doesn't mean they're going to agree, but can they? Yes, right? In this scenario, you're trying to get the closing. You've got $3,000 that can't be used right now. How else can you figure out to use these dollars, right? It's not that people aren't arguing over this. They're just trying to find a solution, a means to the end. Okay, so if you're reducing concessions, right? You do have to do something on the addendum side of this. I'll come back and show you the Binsr exhibit next, don't worry. But you have to also do an addendum. You have to clearly modify your previous concession. If they can't take those 3,000, you can't leave that sitting out there. You need to say clear language, seller reduced seller concessions from ABCD by $3,000 to GHIJ, whatever the number is, right? And an alternative with this percentage, that's what I mentioned earlier, 2.5% of purchase price less $3,000, right? So if you're having to adjust this, you can put that type of language in there. In your addendum, if you're having to reduce something, make sure you're stepping through that. But let's get to the Binsr exhibit because this is what people are wanting to find out all the time here. So this is a blank sheet of paper, folks. Funny thing, you've got something probably on your computer called Word or Page or whatever. So you put at the top Binsr exhibit and a number. Hopefully there's only one, but theoretically, at least leave that. Anytime you're doing something to add to the contract, you need to have the seller, buyer, premises, and date of contract. Now, this is the Binsr, but we still need to have that it's tied to that Binsr, and the Binsr is tied to that contract, okay? And then I don't know what the language is going to be. Buyer and seller agree to modify the Binsr as follows and proceed to closing. Either the seller's agreeing to something or the buyer's agreeing to something. You're going to have to detail it and then all parties sign, right? I have no idea if it's 1, 2, 3. I saw one of these the other day where they had to come back and the seller agreed to make specific repairs because they could not do the concessions, but they were coming back and agreeing to do 5 of the long laundry list that they were going to take care of. So they came back and said seller agrees to only repair the following items, right? Which originally in the Binsr, they weren't doing anything. They were doing dollars in lieu of repairs. Could not do that, had to do it prior to close. This was an option, right? Could you do it where all of a sudden you were going to have a check written, like I said earlier, written to ABC Plumbing? No problem. Seller agrees to irrevocably send escrow instructions that a check will be written to ABC Plumbing for $3,000, invoice attached, right? You can do that. This would be that modification. If you're having to do this, please give me a call. Yes.
So, when the seller's responding to the Binsr and an agent messed up and wrote in lieu of repairs, can they respond and say, you just said this, but I want to hear it again. Can they respond and say, seller agrees to repair the following, even though it says
Hey,
in lieu of
so-
repair?
So
That's a response. Is that
okay? So the problem is you brought your addendum in. It's the addendum that can't say in lieu of repairs. The Binsr can say in lieu of repairs.
trying to remember?
So
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, it doesn't say that.
okay, yeah, I was to say your addendum didn't say that. So, but so the question is, yes, could you, if all of a sudden the credit could not be used, could you come back and modify your Binsr and have the seller make some repairs in lieu of the credit, yes, you just have to
What
put
if
that
their
in there,
response is, that's their response, we will fix the following,
okay?
and they send that over.
What are you correcting? If the buyer is fine with that, the buyer accepts that.
So it's all good.
If that was the seller's response, that they're making repairs and the buyer's happy with that.
Yeah.
Then the buyer.
Okay, I thought you said something else. I misinterpreted.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's look at a couple of these. I know it is 11 o'clock. You can stay or go. Following, I'm just showing you a bunch of Binsrs. So this is one that, quite honestly, I think is very poorly written. For many reasons. Number one is, if you're going to list items, please put numbers on here, because for the seller to respond to this, they're trying to respond line by line and there's no reference point. So either they have to repeat everything that's written. It's very hard to respond to this. So some of it is clear, but some is not. Let's see if I put highlighters on it. I did not. Okay. Let me go back here really quickly. So have the reported major wall foundation crack evaluated by a licensed structural engineer and complete any repairs recommended by the engineer. Whose job is that?
Buyers.
The buyers, right? It's the buyer's job. Now, in this case, ironically, the HOA had to cover it. So, but still, the buyer, you should not be writing something like that. If you are in an inspection and seeing something that is an issue like that, that's your red flag to say, think we maybe need to get some other people out here to take a look at this, find out what type of damage this is, right? Identify and correct the source of all moisture intrusion and water damage noted in the inspection report. Okay, that will come up later. Let me get on to another one here. So, I guess I put it right below. There you go. So here you go, right? Evaluated by a structural engineer in the red lines. That is not the seller's responsibility, right? So to your point earlier, when agents write in here, instead of writing that language there, they just write A, right? This is the first one, A, 2.2.1 wall structure. And that's what they put in their Binsr to a seller, right? This is where I'm telling you, if you're not reading this, if I'm representing that seller, too bad, so sad. That was the buyer's responsibility, right? It says major cracking observed, blah, blah, blah. Recommend a qualified structural engineer evaluate and advise on a course of action. There is no course of action here. There is no verb. What are you asking the seller to do? Okay. Now, in their case, they still didn't ask us. They asked the seller evaluate with a structural engineer. That's not the seller's job. Right? Again, that's why I'm saying put a verb first. What are you specifically asking the seller to do? And it should not be inspections, okay? So let's get, right? This is the problem. So when people are referencing inspection reports, an inspection report is written for a buyer. And it's often written, if you talk to inspectors, it's not written just for that moment. It's written as a game plan for what to do over the next several years to maintain the property. So, I think that that's where it's important to see these things. So here's some more, whoops. Hopefully there you go. So identify and correct the source of all moisture intrusion. The seller is supposed to identify this. Now this gets even better, right? So of course, your moisture damage, right? Moisture is observed. This could be an issue. A qualified professional should evaluate the extent of damage and identify the moisture source for proper repair. The only problem is, it says after the source is corrected, repair and replace, right? But identify the moisture source for the proper repair. What does the number on the meter show you?
0.
What moisture?
Yeah.
How do you find a moisture source if there's no current moisture. I mean, you could repair the siding, but who knows? Was this, I mean, this is a 19, I don't know, 60s, 70s house, right? How old is that damage?
Clearly, it's old.
Could have been repaired years ago. Seller only owned it a couple of years. Who knows, right? So again, this is where you as an agent, you have to look at these things and you got to figure out how can you ask for that repair? Or in this case, let's hit the high road, right? I mean, buyer, maybe it's not worth it for you to buy this home. And that is a legitimate response to your buyer, right? If they're concerned about things like this. I'm just trying to help you guys. So items disapproved, right? Please see attached home inspection, roof inspection, and septic. Roof report is under other reports. Look here. Roof 2.9.1, 2.9.2, 2.9.3, 2.9. Okay. Oh my gosh, folks, right? So, and then it goes on. This is actually a trick here. Repair, replace the stove to working condition. Cannot set the oven unless the burner is on. Wiring, question mark. Sewer line, 1.2.1, 1.2.2, 1.2.4. Please don't write it this way, okay? But this is actually an ongoing issue. You will notice it says repair, replace the stove in working condition. The response was, did I not give the response? Uh-oh. Okay, I'm going to go back to this for a second. Okay. Oh, the response is right there. I'm so sorry. Seller's response is as follows. Seller to install a new stainless steel electric stove of seller's choosing. In lieu of other repairs, there's a credit. What words were missing from that bottom sentence from up above about the stove? I even had it circled.
Yeah, working condition.
Working condition. So if the seller's installing a new stove, would you think it needs to be installed and be in working condition? Do you really need the words working condition? Do we normally write that? Doesn't it have to be done in workmanlike manner? So I'll let you know what happens with this. Stove didn't work. Brand new stove, put in. What do you think the problem was?
There's an electrical problem.
Electrical problem.
Yeah. File closed.
717.
Seller says, gave you a new stove,
Yeah, I did what you asked.
except that it said it was to be in working condition. Agent's response is, that's not what the response says. Never said it had to be in working condition. Just said we'd give you a new stove. Saga will continue. I'll let you know what happens. Okay. All right. So work shall be performed by a licensed roofing contractor, right? We've got all these things. All repairs should be completed by licensed contractors before close of escrow. How many days before close of escrow?
5.
Should be 3.
3. But all of a sudden somebody wrote in here before close of escrow. Can't write that, folks. Are you redoing the contract? You can't renegotiate the contract on the Binsr. Please don't write different terminology, right? Professional roofing company, repair or replace. Electrical, seller to have licensed electrician repair or replace. Now, I will say I like this that somebody put this into categories, roof, siding, that's fine. That's great. If you go up to number 2, flashing and trim, seller to repair gaps or missing stucco on exterior walls. See 8 and 9 of home inspection report, gaps around windows, see page 10. So again, they're using it as a reference, and then they even give an estimate from a construction company. So the detail is there. That's good. You know, so good work there. Good way to present this. Then on the bottom, this is one that says seller to credit buyer blank in lieu of repairs. I would say in lieu of 1 through 6, making sure, oh, it says one, oh, it does say noted on items 1 through 6, never mind, and referenced on addendum 1. So there, and it actually covered all of that. So, okay, so here we've got another one. Have licensed roofer provide a 10-year workmanship warranty on the roof. Can you ask for a warranty in this? Possibly. Do they have to comply? Probably not. So this is kind of an interesting thing. So seller to provide escrow instructions to title and to pay 5,500 out of proceeds to a roofing company, which is half the cost towards the main roof underlayment replacement and tile reinstall. So buyer and seller were agreeing to split this. So they were asking for the seller's portion in a check. Great way to do it. Worked just fine. And then the buyer coordinates post-closing with their own funds. So that's another option, not an issue there. I know I ran a little long there, but I hope you enjoyed that. For those of you taking notes, I am more than willing to send the slide deck if you want it. So just send me an email and I'll make it a PDF so you can have it easier. But hope that helped you. Little different way to go about the Binsr, but I hope it was entertaining and useful to all of you.
Thanks.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna stop sharing. I was trying to see who all was still on there. They're all disappearing. Okay. Have a good one.